فصل يجب الغسل من 3 أشياء.
I may have forgotten, of course, anyways. No. And as far as one of the things that nullify wudu, I didn't mention passing wind. Passing wind, yeah. Passing wind also.
من نواقض الوضوء. فصل يجب الغسل من 3 أشياء.
And then now the ghusl, what nullifies your ghusl, what puts you in a state of major ritual impurity?
الجنابة والحيض والنفاس.
3 things: janaba and hayd and nifas.
فالجنابة قسمان.
Janaba, it has 2 parts.
أحدهما خروج المني بلذة معتادة.
One of them is the discharge of major sexual fluid
بلذة معتادة.
with a normal pleasure.
في نوم أو يقظة.
Whether awake or sleeping.
بجماع أو غيره، لأن الجماع لازم أن يكون إدخال ذكر في الفرج.
Through intercourse or other than intercourse.
أو غيره. والثاني مغيب الحشفة في الفرج.
And then the second, what's it called, janaba. The first janaba is by the release of the sexual fluid, the conclusion of sexual activity. The second is simply having intercourse regardless of completion, and the intercourse is defined as the disappearance of the head of the male private part into either private part of another person.
ومن رأى في نومه أنه يجامع ولم يخرج منه مني فلا شيء عليه.
And if a person dreams that they are having intercourse but nothing comes out of them, then no major sexual fluid comes out of them, then there's nothing that they have to do.
ومن وجد في ثوبه منيا يابسا لا يدري متى أصابه اغتسل وأعاد ما صلى من آخر نومة نامها به.
And if a person finds that major sexual fluid dried up on their clothes, meaning that it had come out while they were sleeping, if it was wet, then they would have known it came out now. But if it was dry, then they don't know when it came on them. So then they would repeat all the prayers, they would purify themselves, do ghusl, and then repeat all the prayers from the last time they were sleeping.
أما إذا شك بين المني والمذي أيضا فكذلك أيضا.
And if a person was doubtful whether this is sperm or whether it is pre-seminal fluid, then it would still be obligatory for him to do so.
وإذا شك بين 3 فلا غسل عليه. شك المني أو مذي أو ودي فلا شيء.
And if a person is doubtful whether it is one of the 3 things, the 3 fluids, then he doesn't have to do anything. Just of course wash it.
وأعاد ما صلى من آخر نومته.
نعم.
وأعاد ما صلى
عليه وأعاد.
لا أصابه ما اغتسل وأعاد ما صلى من آخر نومته.
So yeah, if a person then is doubtful whether it's one of the 2 things or whether they know it is dried sperm that is on them, then they should repeat the prayers from the last after making ghusl, repeat the prayers from the last time they slept.
فصل فرائض الغسل النية عند الشروع.
So now we are in the requirements, the pillars to have accepted ghusl. The first is the
كما تقدمنا من نية رفع الحدث الأكبر أو استباحة الصلاة أو غير ذلك.
Intention, as we said, you can't just have a blank intention. Your intention is
رفع الحدث الأكبر أو استباحة الصلاة أو المس المصحف أو الطواف إلى غيره.
Or to either a specific intention that I'm going to make permissible for me tawaf or prayer or whatever touching the mushaf, or a general intention to remove that impurity.
عند الشروع.
When starting, that intention needs to be there while starting that ghusl.
والفور والدلك على ما تقدم.
And fawr and dalk. Dalk is the scrubbing in the nature that we had described. So the whole entire body must be lightly scrubbed. And then fawr, which is not taking a break between limbs that is long enough for the previous limb that was just done to dry under normal conditions.
والعموم. عموم جميع البدن.
And getting the water everywhere, covering the whole body with the water and all the required places with water.
والغسل أصعب من الوضوء بكثير.
And ghusl is much harder than wudu.
ولذلك قال ابن عاشر فتابع الخفي مثل الركبتين والإبط والرفق وبين الإليتين. فتابع الخفي.
So then Al-Akhdari, he mentions to certain areas to watch out for in ghusl, such as behind the knees, between the glutes, and to Ibn Ashur mentions in the belly button, in the navel,
السرة والركبتين وبين الإليتين وتحت الإبط,
and under the armpit.
وجنوبا غير الصماخ فاصلا أذنيك ظاهرهما وما بطن.
And for the ghusl, it's not, you don't wipe the ears, you wash the ears. So the inside and the outside.
كل ما يمسه الإصبع لا بد من غسله.
All of the ears, anything that your finger can touch.
إلا ما لا يمسه إلا رأس الإصبع من داخل فتمسحه.
Then everything is required to wash that the finger can touch like that, except the inside your ear.
داخل
inside
يمسه طرف الإصبع.
Inside your ear, where only your fingertip can touch, that you're not required to wash, that you just wipe, that you just turn.
فتابع الخفي من الركبتين والإبط والرفق وبين الإليتين.
So then you go into these places between the glutes, behind the knees, in the navel, and under the armpit, and in these ears. Between, yeah. That's what I said, yeah.
والسنن وغسل اليدين إلى الكوعين. والسنن وغسل اليدين إلى الكوعين على ما تقدم في الوضوء. سنن وغسل اليدين إلى الكوعين على ما تقدم في الوضوء.
And as far as the sunnah of ghusl, it is also just like wudu, to begin with the ليس البسملة؟ to begin with the washing the hands 3 times to the wrists, just like wudu. And rinsing the mouth and inhaling water into the nose and blowing the water out of the nose.
قالوا وغسل الصماخ ولكن غير صحيح. مسح صماخ الأذنين معناها ما دارس إصبعه فيه واجب غسله. ما يمسه طرف الإصبع من الداخل يمسحه.
So let's say you stick your finger in your ear and you turn your finger.
كل غسل واجب.
That which the sides of the fingers touch is required, and that which the tip of the fingers touch is preferred.
وهي الثقبة.
And that's the hole in the ear, the ear canal.
داخلة في الرأس. وأما صفحة الأذن فيجب غسل ظاهرها وباطنها.
But as for the ear itself, the outside of the ear, it is required to wash the inside and the outside.
وفضائله البداية بغسل النجاسة.
And from the virtues of wudu, now we're talking about the preferred things in wudu after that are a lower level than the sunnah. Number 1 is to begin by washing impurities off of your body.
ثم الذكر وما حوله من الأذنين والمخرجين.
And then the private parts and what are around them.
بنية رفع الحدث الأكبر بادئ بالنية من ذلك الوقت.
And of course beginning with the intention at that time to remove the impurity.
بغسل النجاسة ثم الذكر فينوي عنده ثم أعضاء الوضوء بعد ذلك مرة.
And then going over the areas of wudu one by one.
هذا قول يغسله مرة واحدة هذا هو قوله.
And this is the statement of
يغسله مرة واحدة لا يثني ولا يثلي.
To wash those areas of wudu once. That's it, one time.
حتى يكمل أعضاء الوضوء.
Until he goes through all of the areas of wudu.
هذا هو قوله.
This is what Al-Akhdari said.
قول خليل.
And the statement of Khalil as
كثير
well.
من العلماء قالوا.
And a lot of the scholars have said this just once.
قال يثلث وعندما يصل إلى الرأس يستمر في باقي البدن ويختم بالقدمين.
And some of the scholars said to do 3 times until reaching the hair, but once reaching the hair to do 3 times, and then conclude with the feet.
يختم بالقدمين.
And then conclude with the feet.
ثم على جسده. بعد أن يغسل أعضاء الوضوء يذهب إلى على جسده.
And then after he's done with the limbs of wudu, then he starts with the top of his body down with the areas that were not already done.
فقط كما تقدم لكم. واجب العموم عموم جميع البدن.
And what is obligatory, as we have mentioned, is to get the water everywhere in the body.
هذا هو الواجب.
And this is what is absolutely required.
وهذا كله مندوب هذا.
And all of this here is preferred.
ثم أعضاء الوضوء مرة ثم على جسده.
So after doing the areas of wudu one time each, then beginning at the top of the body down. So washing now behind the ears and so on, and the neck and the underside of the neck, where the extra part of the beard.
كلها بعد ذلك تغسل الشق الأيمن إلى الركبتين.
And washing now the right side of the body, from the shoulders down to the knee.
وكذلك تفعل بالشق الأيسر بعد.
And the left side then down to the knee, of course avoiding the area that you have already done.
بعد ذلك إلى الساق الأيمن.
And then from the knees down to the right ankle.
إلى الكعبين وتفعل ذلك بالأيسر.
And then you do that on the left side also.
فإذا كنت قد خدمت الوضوء من قبل فقد تم الغسل.
And if you have already done the wudu and you already washed your feet before, then your ghusl is complete.
وهذا غسل الوضوء هنا مغسول بنية رفع الحدث الأكبر. هذا الوضوء هنا في الجنابة بنية رفع الحدث الأكبر.
And this ghusl of janaba is with the intention of
هذا الوضوء.
This wudu, of course, you don't do the wudu part with the intention of wudu. You do it with the intention of removing the major impurity, not minor impurity.
وتهريل غسل الرأس يعني يغسل رأسه 3 مرات.
And of course, to wash the hair 3 times is preferred.
وتقديم شق جسده الأيمن كما قلنا وتقليل الماء على الأعضاء.
And to use little water over the limbs, of course,
بقدر الإتقان
while still perfecting.
ما زاد على ذلك ومكروه.
Whatever water you need to achieve the complete wudu and a perfect state, then a perfect ghusl, then this is required, and it's sunnah to keep that water as minimum as possible. Now once you have used enough water to complete that, then whatever water you use beyond that is disliked.
ومن نسي نبعة أو عضوا من غسله بادر إلى غسله حين ذكره ولو بعد شهر.
And if somebody forgot even one part or one limb or even a small part of that limb after they have done, even if they remember later, even if days or weeks later, then they immediately go and wash that area only, and their ghusl is complete. And they must repeat the prayers that they prayed in that state.
وإن أخره بعد ذكره بطل غسله إذا كان بقدر ما تجف في الأعضاء. إذا أخره بعد أن تذكره جلس كسلان لو كانت الأعضاء مبلولة لجفت بطل غسله.
And then if somebody remembers that, oh, I missed that limb, but then they wait long enough for a period of time, even if their limbs dried a week ago, but they remember it now, then they only have the time that takes for a limb to dry under normal conditions. And if they wait out of laziness, or they just wait and let that time go by without going and washing that area, then they need to do their ghusl from the beginning.
صعد ما صلى وإن أخره بعد ذكره بطل غسله فإن كان في أعضاء الوضوء وصاده وغسل الوضوء إزه وإن كان ذلك المتروك من أعضاء الوضوء وبعد ذلك قام ليتوضأ فتذكره بعد أن توضأ أو وقت وضوءه فكفاه ذلك كفته نية الوضوء عن نية الغسل.
فإن توضأ بين ذلك وذلك
إذا تذكر عضو من أعضاء الوضوء بعد أن اغتسل. إذا تذكر عضو من أعضاء الوضوء بعد أن اغتسل.
So if he remembers a limb that is missing from the limbs of wudu that he had forgotten in his ghusl,
وأراد الآن أن يتوضأ.
And then now he had come to make wudu, but they remember. and he had made the intention, and now he makes the intention of removing the minor impurity,
كفاه ذلك عن نية الحدث الأكبر.
that would suffice him from the intention of removing the major impurity.
وهذا يستثنى من نيابة الأصغر عن الأكبر.
And this is the exception to the rule of major intention.
فالقاعدة أن الأصغر يندرج تحت الأكبر.
The principle, the foundation is that the smaller intention does not suffice for the major intention. The minor requirement. نعم بس يموت 17 يعني
صدق وغسل أجزاه. فصل لا يحل للشنو بدخول المسجد ولا قراءة القرآن إلا آية ونحوها للتعوذ ونحوه.
So then what is additionally impermissible for a person with major ritual impurity above the minor ritual? Of course, the minor ritual impurity, that's all forbidden. All of those things that from minor impurity
لا
is
يحل
forbidden.
للشنو بأن يدخل المسجد.
So for the one who is in a state of janaba, then they
دخول المسجد
they are not permitted to enter the masjid,
ولا قراءة القرآن
nor to recite the Quran,
إلا الآية ونحوها
except a verse or close to a verse,
للتعوذ ونحوه.
to seek protection, or like reciting Ayatul Kursi before one sleeps and so on, or entering the car. These du'as that are made as a dhikr.
ولا يجوز لمن لا يقدر على الماء البارد أن يأتي زوجته حتى يعد الآلة إلا أن يحتلم فلا شيء عليه.
And if a person is not able to withstand cold water and that is all they have, and they know this, then they should not. It is not halal for them to have to approach their wife, to have intercourse with their wife,
إلا أن يعد الآلة.
except if he is نعم يعد الآلة يعني
آلة التسخين وآلة التدفئة.
Unless he has prepared something to heat up the water, unless he knows that he's going to be able to make ghusl and heat up the water.
إلا أن يحتلم فلا شيء عليه.
Unless, of course, he has a wet dream, then there's no problem.
وهنا ننتهي عند التيمم ونستريح إلى صلاة المغرب إن شاء الله.
شيخنا دخلنا الحيض والنفاس.
سنتكلم عن الحيض والنفاس.
شيخ لدي 4 أسئلة.
طيب. But your phone,
would it delete the video of?
Won't delete it.
It won't delete it.
Hold on.
Okay.
It's not gonna delete the video. You guys want to start another one?
4 questions.
For 4 questions?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, you guys can do it on this one. What's wrong?
ننتهي من الفيديو ونسأل الأسئلة.
كما تشاء.
فالسؤال الأول شيخ على إن كان الشخص عنده يعني يعدد النيات في الوضوء، عنده يعني كل النيات في الوضوء، هل هذا يجوز؟
كيف؟
يقول أن يعني يريد أن يحل
يستبيح الصلاة، يستبيح هذا ويرفع الحدث الأصغر.
وهل يستطيع أن يكون فقط عنده النية ليتوضأ، يعني لا ما عنده نية إلا أنه
نية الفرض هكذا.
نية الفرض نعم. وليس في رأسه فرض، ولكن أن نيتي أنا
ما هو الذي يحملك؟ ما الذي حملك على الفرض والاستباحة؟
The questions that I asked is, can a person have multiple intentions for their wudu or for their ghusl, to be able to do this and this and this and this, or and Sheikh said yes. The other question was, can a person have the intention just that I'm making wudu, meaning that their intention that they're fulfilling an obligation, and that's it. They're not thinking, oh, so I can pray, so I can do a particular thing. Even that on its own, to fulfill the obligation, that is a acceptable intention. فما هو الفرق بين المسح والغسل؟
مسح والغسل مع وجود الماء.
So wiping.
بأن تضع شيء من الماء وتمسح به على يدك أو على عضوك على المسح.
So the difference between wiping and washing, because we know that the hands and the arms and the feet and so on, these you wash, in the face, but then the head and the ears you wipe. Washing means that you actually take the water and keep it in your hand, and you put it on your face. You actually are taking the water to that face. The wiping means that you wet your hand, and your hand now, you're not carrying the water, but your hand is wet, and then it's not that you dunk the water on your head, but no, you run water over your hands. Now you have wet hands, and then you wipe over your head, and it's not in the detail of the washing, and you wipe over your ears. So when you wipe your ears in wudu and you wash your ears in ghusl, there's a difference.
Oh. So can we ask, is that your 4 questions?
Yeah, that's my 4 questions.
Can I make an ass?
Yeah, inshallah.
Further.
Does in the Shafi'i method, I believe that touching the exit of the anus breaks wudu. Does it do that in the Malikis?
Mas al-dubur.
Yeah.
It does not. Touching the
ونهج قوم الشافعي وواحد من المالكي لكنه ضعيف.
The brother asked of touching the rear private part, the exit of defecation, not to.
ناقض عند الشافعي.
Does this make a person lose their wudu? In the Shafi'i madhab, yes it does, and there's a weak position in the Maliki madhab that it does, but it's not accredited. It's not taken.
Does touching the testicles, I know that the dhakar, that breaks wudu, but the testicles themselves.
الأنثيين هل
نعم قول عروة بن الزبير ولكن
can somebody touching the testicles does not break one's wudu. It is the rather the main member of the male private part.
And during ghusl, from right to left, but does that mean right of the front, right of the back, followed by
yes
left of the back?
both.
هل الأمام ثم الخلف؟
لا هذا تجعله في مكان واحد. لا تحتاج لا تحتاج إلى الترتيب.
It doesn't have to be in order. Just top to bottom, just general.
I just wanted to ask a question. For example, like sometimes you might purchase something on eBay and you don't know who the seller is. How do you make something tahir if you buy something secondhand? For example, like I don't know, my grandma used to say just read like 7 times, Surah Fatiha on it and clean it. And
Like what, for example?
let's just say I bought a cabinet, or let's say I bought
a carpet, let's say. يعني أنت تشتري يعني سجادة مثلا على من الإنترنت أو شيء، فكيف تطمئن أنها طاهرة؟
كانت مما يفرش فيها محمولة على النجاسة، وإن كانت مما لا يفرش فيها محمولة على الطهارة.
If it is something that is spread on the ground,
ما كان معهود أن يسكنوا عليها ويناموا عليها فهذه معهود أن النجاسة.
Then you must treat it as if it has
najasa. كانت معروفة على للنوم وهكذا.
Or it is something that is used for sleeping and so on. Then you must treat it as if it is already has najasa on it, so it must be washed before used as pure.
كانت معدودة للضيافة والأشياء العادية لا تعد.
But if it was something that was used like for guests or whatever, like a tray, something like that, then it is not held in accordance with that.
إلا إذا كان الغالب أن الناس يتعاطون عليه الخمور والنجاسات والحكم للغالب.
Unless it is something that is known, like a champagne glass, that people put alcohol in it, then you must treat it according with the majority case, and the ruling is according to the majority case.
So 2 questions. When you wash, do you have to rinse? Do you have to get the water in and rinse it?
With what? Wash your clothes?
If you wash your clothes, do you have to get in and rinse, or is it enough for you to wash, rub, and it's removed?
ما هو المقدار الواجب لغسل الملابس؟
ما تزيل النجاسة.
Whatever will remove the najasa.
Okay, and the second question, when you make a masha,
يعني الريحة
الرائحة والطعم واللون.
Meaning that the smell
بحسب القدرات.
and the color and the taste would be gone based on ability. Like if there's a stain مثلا من دم بعد الذبح.
يا عصرة.
Yeah, if it's impossible, if it's like difficult sometimes.
لازم الصابون ولازم تسخين الماء شيء عادي.
And just by water, if water under certain circumstances, under no circumstances would take it off, then whatever is remaining still after that is permissible.
لازم الصابون ولا تسخين الماء.
And you don't. It is not required to heat up the water nor to use soap. So the extent that could be washed with water to remove the taste, smell, and the color.
And then when you make masha, so you said that this portion of the ear is required, right? No. So you have to go over, so it has to touch the whole ear. How about the back of the ear?
Yeah.
Yes. All the way.
This is for
the head.
For the
head.
Oh yeah, in ghusl.
No. In wudu, you have to wipe the head, right?
So wiping when you wipe the wudu, when you wipe your head, the area between the hair and the ears is required to wipe over, to pass your hands over.
الرأس في مذهب مالك صعيب جدا.
نعم. قال هل يعني للنساء في المذهب المالكي كيف يمسحون على الشعر والرأس؟
جميع رأسها.
So I can describe this one. Unfortunately, I had long hair most of my life. So you begin at the front as is preferred, and you go through all of the hair down to the tip of it.
فإذا جف في الوسط فجدد الماء.
And if your hands dried halfway through going through it, then you have to wet your hands again to finish going through it. وإن كان مثلا في يعني الشعر مربوط أو شيء.
إذا كان بغير خيوط لا حرج.
ولو كان بخيوط؟
كانت كثيرة تضر، كان شيء واحد قليل واحد شيء هذا لا يضر، وإذا كانت كثيرة فلا بد من حلها.
That if a person has, for example, braids in their hair, they can go over it. That's no problem. But if somebody has ties or knots holding those braids together, if it's a few, just يعني إن كانت صغيرة على كل
خيط أو خيطين شيء قليل.
لو كان مثلا عنده 5
لا أشياء كثيرة لا.
نعم. فحتى الوضوء.
نعم الوضوء.
يعني ليست كثيرة في الحجم ولكن كثيرة في العدد.
لا.
So if a person has many different braids and knots and ties and so on, then they have to take them off in order for that wudu to be accepted.
So a person has like dreadlocks.
Yeah, if you have braids, for example, and you have at the bottom, you have like an elastic thing, then you can roll it down. You can roll it.
ليس من عمل الرجال. ليس من عمل الرجال.
And this is not the action of men.
هاي غباوة. هذا ليس من عمل الرجال، هذا عمل البنات يعني.
فإن كانت النساء يعني مثلا في الخارج فماذا يفعلون؟
ما عندها خيار.
And the question is, if I'm in public spaces and find difficulty in taking down all my hair, or if I'm somewhere and this is not possible, what can I do? You have no option.
ترتب ذلك قبل خروجها، لماذا تخرج بالمشاكل؟
No, be prepared for this before you leave.
لماذا تخرجين ببطلان الصلاة يا أخي؟
And is leaving worth missing your prayers?
Women are not permitted to wipe over hijab, right?
قال هل النساء يسمح لهم أن يمسحوا فوق الحجاب؟
لا.
إن كان عندهم وضوء.
لا.
No, women are not permitted to wipe over the hijab. Sorry, sisters, did you hear what I said? No? Sorry. So as far as the two questions, one of them is, can you describe the wiping of the head and the hair? It must all be, and sorry, I did say this out loud. It must all be wiped over. If a person has a longer hair, then they have to go over all of that hair. If their hand dries halfway through, they have to complete until they have to re-wet their hands and then complete it. If there are ties to hold the hair together, if it's just like 1 or 2, then that's fine. But if it's more than that, then they have to move those ties and wipe where those ties were. As far as if one is in public spaces and has difficulty in this, then they need to take this into account before they leave the house. They must take this into account before they leave the house. Try to leave with wudu. Think about where they're going to make wudu and do their prayers. Just because they're in a public space doesn't excuse them from having to make wudu properly.
مرابط الحاج رحمه الله تعالى رأى رجل شخصا لا يتقن الوضوء فقال له هذا رأس مالك.
Sheikh Murabit al-Hajj, he saw a man that he saw he wasn't perfecting his wudu. He said, this is your most important property. This is your capital. This is your meaning it's the most important thing that you have. This is the beginning. If this is wrong, meaning it's the capital, starting capital. If you don't have that, then nothing else.
تاجر لا يحافظ على الربح قبل ما يتقن رأس المال.
How can a merchant have any business before they have any starting capital.
مشكلة المسلمين الآن الاهتمام بالنوافل وترك الفرائض.
And the problems with Muslims today is that they pay attention to the supererogatory things and they leave that which is required.
يقال ممن قاده هواه.
And this is called the one who is guided by their desires.
أي قيادة الهوى.
So if a person has braids and they have to make wudu, do they have to take out the braids and wash in between, or could they just wipe over the braids?
No, if somebody has braids, they can wipe over the braids, but if they have ties for those braids,
that's just the ties.
Sometimes you can roll those down.
Okay.
You can roll those down.
Okay.
And if it's for ghusl, you can squeeze.
ولكن الغسل لا بد من دخول الماء لكل شيء.
But for ghusl, you have to make sure the water enters.
وإذا كان شديدا فلا بد من حله.
نعم.
وإذا كان شديدا فلا بد من حله.
And if it is something that will prevent the water from entering,
فلا بد من حله.
He must disconnect it.
I have three questions short. Can you give us an example of when many comes out in unnormal circumstances? Like the condition is that it has to come out for normal circumstances.
هل في الحالات المعتادة هل في
وش هو المعتاد؟
يعني كان من ما هو يعني غير المعتاد؟
مثل لدغ عقرب أو هز دابة أو حرق أو غضب هذا غير معتاد.
That if it's from like some people they get stung by a scorpion and it comes out. Some people they are
أو ضربة أو غضب.
Or they're struck or they get angry.
Wudu, you'd have to make wudu, but not.
Yeah, have to make wudu.
The second one was I know that kissing on the lips takes you out of wudu, but there's one exception, right? If you're doing it for a goodbye, like.
إلا لوداع ورحمة ما في حرج.
That kissing the lips out of when you're saying goodbye, a goodbye kiss.
أو رحمة واحد رأسه مريضة أو شيء هذا.
A goodbye kiss or a mercy kiss. The person sees his wife is, like sick or something like that.
أو حزين.
Or sad.
لا يريد أي شيء يعني.
That it's not done out of pleasure
ما من المعتاد في ذلك الوقت أن يريد.
It is abnormal in that time to do something out of pleasure. Obviously, a person is leaving his house, then he's leaving, and then.
ولم يجد لذة من ذلك.
And he does not find pleasure in it.
Even if it's lip to lip, right?
Yes. It must be lip to lip for any wudu to be lost, but the exception of the lip to lip that is the wudu is not lost is in the case of goodbye and mercy.
One more. When you're in Janaba, of course, you can't enter the masjid. But today we have like centers where they have part of it's a masjid, but the other part of it's like something else.
خلينا من المساجد أنا سأتكلم لك عن المساجد.
We'll talk about masjids and what is considered.
خلينا من مساجد أمريكا.
So this is regarding care.
We'll talk about مساجد أمريكا بلاد.
What the root of it is, right? And for example, say someone is in a place where they don't have a means of removing this hair, like a vacuum or lint roller, or for example, running it off.
قال مثلا الذي يركب حمار ويجد عليه شعر ولا يدري ما بالنبت وما بغير
نبت. كانت أصوله موجودة هذا نجس.
وإن لا يعلم.
يحتاج أن يعلم. ما يمكن يفسد صلاته.
مثلا إن كان يعني شعر من قطة على ملابسه.
لابد أن يعرف هل هو معه أصله ولا.
وإن لم يعلم.
لابد أن يعلم.
فيحتاط يعني.
لابد أن يعلم.
Yeah, you have to know. You have to know. If you don't know, then you can't.
Wait, so
Because I have a cat. Usually.
خلونا من السؤال الآن سنستريح.
إن شاء الله we'll take a break.
Keep your question, please.